She says they took everyone and then asked questions later.
They just treated us like we were nothing.
Patricia Fisher says she came out to the hallway of her apartment complex on the corner of 75th and South Shore Drive in her nightgown around 10 Monday night, only to find ICE agents yelling police.
It was scary because I've never had a gun put in my face. They asked my name and my date of birth and asked me did I have any warrants, and I told them no, I didn't.
She says she was then handcuffed and released around 3 a.m. Fisher says she was told if anyone had any kind of warrant out for them, even if it was unrelated to immigration, they would not be released. Citizen-At video shows the chaotic scene overnight. Neighbors tell us there were dozens of ICE agents.
Come around the corner, because they was bringing the kids out too, had them zip tied to each other. That's all I kept asking. Where's the morality? Where's the human? One of them literally laughed. He was standing right here. He said, them kids.
Fuck the kids.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So I gotta tell you guys, the thesis of this video is going to be the Trump administration, promises made, promises kept, right? That should be the slogan of the Trump administration, okay? Because on President Trump's biggest promise, okay, which is the mass deportations, closing the border, fixing this illegal immigrant problem that we have in this country, nobody can argue that this man has not put in 100% effort into fulfilling that campaign promise, right? The results have been amazing. This is going better than I could ever expect, okay, to be honest with you. I mean, realistically, politicians make promises, and I guess the way that you can judge a politician about whether or not they kept their promises, okay, did they put in a legitimate effort, right, to do so? Yeah, I think with immigration, yes. On some other topics, like, for example, cutting spending, no, right? They didn't put in a legitimate effort. But no politician will ever put in legitimate effort to cut spending, right? It's just not going to happen. So once you accept that reality, it's like, all right, okay, what are you actually putting a legitimate effort into, right? Immigration being, again, one of those things. I got to say, stories like this are a great example of what I'm talking about, okay? Because I predicted that we were going to see a mass invasion of these Democrat cities by ICE, and that's happening right now, and that this was going to be something that was going to be very controversial, right? And the reason why is because with the big, beautiful bill, ICE is receiving $75 billion over the next few years, probably about $25 billion a year. Okay, which is bigger than most countries' military budget, right? So basically, ICE at this point has unlimited resources, unlimited manpower, and the result of that was never going to be a good outcome for Democrats. And the Trump administration strategically in court as well too, they've been testing Democrats to see what they can get away with and what they can't get away with. And now it's kind of all coming together, and you're seeing what they in fact can do, because the Trump administration may not be able to send the military into these sanctuary cities, right? Because of, you know, constitutional concerns. Can't do that, but he can send ICE, and ICE is basically like a military at this point, right? And that is what leftists are boo-hooing the crowd about. Military invasion of Chicago, okay? Because the outrage and hysteria from the most recent ICE operation in Chicago is legendary, right? But sub-thesis of this video, Democrats, we warned you, right? We warned you, and this is your fault, right? The residents of Chicago should blame Democrats for this, okay? So, without further ado, let's get into the first story where ICE agents handcuffed a Chicago alderman who was trying to stop them from arresting an illegal at a hospital.
Also breaking this afternoon, ICE agents handcuff and threaten to detain Chicago Alderperson Jesse Fuentes in Humboldt Park.
Fuentes had been asking the agents to show an arrest warrant for a person being treated inside that health facility. WGN's Angelica Sanchez is live in Humboldt Park. What can you tell us right now, Angelica?
Good afternoon to you both. Well, Alderwoman Jesse Fuentes.
Yeah. So he tried that out in the clubhouse with us.
Yeah, I thought I remembered hearing that.
Yeah.
He has constitutional rights. Do you have a sign?
No, you need to leave him. Turn around. You're turn around and leave.
He is under.
I'm going to arrest you if you do not leave.
You
are going to be placed under arrest.
Do you have a signed judicial warrant?
Who's in the hallway by registration to come here, please?
Well, Alderwoman Jessie Fuentes was joined by dozens of people, including other elected leaders outside this hospital, demanding that ICE let an immigration attorney speak with an undocumented man inside. She says that it's when she was asking for a warrant that she was detained. Video from the Citizen app shows Alderwoman Fuentes asking for that warrant, saying that the man had constitutional rights. She says she was put in handcuffs and later released when she challenged ICE agents, asking what law she was breaking for her to be arrested. We have reached out to ICE for comment on this incident and have yet to receive a response. Alderwoman Fuentes says the undocumented man inside the hospital is roughly 37 years of age. It's not known exactly how this man broke his leg or how this all unfolded. She says that she wants an immigration attorney to speak with him.
People deserve to get medical attention and not fear that they're going to get detained or deported. And so I arrived to the emergency room in which the ICE agents were sitting in the room with the individual. Outside of that room, I asked the ICE agents if they had a judicial warrant for the individual that they were detaining.
See, the problem with this clown, because that's what she is, she's a clown, okay, is that ICE is already in the patient's room. They're already in a private area. So because they're already in a private area, it is safe to assume that they've already showed their warrant, right, to the administrator, the person that is responsible for the hospital, right? Some type of person in charge, the boss or whatever, right? They've already probably showed the paperwork to the people that they need to show it to, okay? Again, the administrators of the hospital in order to be in that room, okay? They don't need to show it to some random Democrat alderman. Like, you don't have that type of power and authority. They don't have to show paperwork to you. Like, who are you to come into the hospital and demand for ICE to show paperwork, right? You should assume that because ICE is there, they've already shown their paperwork to the people that they need to show their paperwork to, if they even need to show paperwork, right? And if they didn't show paperwork, it's still not on this Democrat alderman. That still doesn't give this person permission to run up in the room and ask ICE for their papers. Really? That's none of your business, right? That's none of your business. What happened to you was a result of you being in business that it doesn't belong to you, right? You have no business in the business of what was happening in that hospital. So that's why you were detained. And you're lucky that you weren't actually arrested and charged, right? For obstructing, because that was what you was doing. If ICE was so big and bad, they should have just charged this person, or at least attempted to, right? With obstruction. And they were so big and bad, right? They're so bad. No, they just told you to get out of the way, right? They arrested you or they detained you so that you can get out of the way, okay? That's what they did. But again, these Democrats, man, they're trying to make a show out of this. And it's like, yo, we're not playing around anymore. Like, we don't care about this. We don't have time for your little games, right? Your virtue signals, okay? If you want to make a show out of it, okay, fine. But we're not like, we're not going to just allow you to obstruct. It's just like the operation will carry on. We're going to deport the illegals, right? We don't care how much you boo-hoo, whine, and cry. We don't care how much you virtue signal. The job will get done, period. That's the reality.
Refuse to answer.
Now, community groups are also speaking out against some of the ICE tactics they say that people witness in some North Side neighborhoods. We'll have much more from them tonight at 5. For now, live in Humboldt Park, Angelica Sanchez, WGN News.
Yeah. So, that's the first story, right? Now, the second story I talk about was this ICE operation that happened in Chicago, in the Chicago neighborhood. And these people are acting like this was a military invasion. Like, they're telling these very crazy stories that I think a lot of these stories probably aren't true, right? But they're telling some pretty wild stories about this ICE operation in which DHS says they targeted Tren de Aragua, right? Gang members. But again, leftists are telling a different story. Take a look.
A new mass surveillance system, and it's going to be ICE Gestapo thugs at the head of it. So nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. All right, now, at the same time, listen to this. There's a heavy military presence outside the Broadview ICE facility in Illinois right now. Snipers can be seen on top of armored vehicles. Protesters are also being arrested. So I watched some of the videos coming out of this, and it looks terrifying. So you got these agents who are covering their faces. They have snipers with scopes on them. They're like fucking pointing it at these peaceful protesters. You got these big armored vehicles all over the place. You have these drones, these menacing drones flying all over the place. Again, this is all to go after peaceful protesters at an ICE facility in Illinois. So, ladies and gentlemen, this truly does not look like the United States of America anymore. It just doesn't. When you have peaceful protesters just, using their First Amendment rights, as any free citizen is able to do under our Constitution, and you have these armed thugs who look like they're in the middle of a heavy war zone, right? Just totally decked out in like camouflage gear and bulletproof vests and covering their face and with the snipers pointing at people. I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy what we're looking at here. So every single day, we descend deeper and deeper into hell. And I just hope people out there are not asleep. You have to, don't look away. I know it's hard, but you can't look away. You need to understand, and you need to not comply with this bullshit. All right, but it gets even worse. You ready for this? So there's this horror story coming out of, I believe it's Chicago. This ICE story is really next level. This has to be one of the worst of all the ICE stories. And you guys know we've covered all of them, and there's been a lot of bad ones. So listen to this. So ICE agents rappelled from Black Hawk helicopters in the middle of the night and detained U.S. citizens. They grabbed everyone at an apartment complex and even zip-tied the children together. Quote, they had the black people in one van and the immigrants in another van, said one witness. One agent literally laughed and he said, and I quote, fuck them kids.
Yeah, so I definitely think that a lot of these reports that are coming out of Chicago about this raid are exaggerated, okay? I think it is plant meat for Blue Anon, right? And I say plant meat because we know that leftists, liberals don't eat real meat, right? So they feed them plant meat, right? So I think that, there's a good chance that, these stories are exaggerated. And that's the whole point, okay? Because if you look at some of these headlines, I mean, ICE agent dragged naked children out of homes in Chicago, raid neighbors, according to neighbors. So, I'm just saying, the mainstream liberal media, they got what they want, right? And they're currently panicking over these reports.
One thing is clear, none of what Trump is doing is making Illinois safer. ICE is running around the loop, harassing people for not being white. Just a year ago, that was illegal in the United States. Now, ICE is making it commonplace. That's not making America great.
Hi again, everybody. It's now 5 o'clock in New York. Mere hours after Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said that, a terrifying scene unfolded in Chicago. Around 300 federal agents descended on an apartment building in the South Shore neighborhood. They forced their way inside and began raiding people's homes. From reporting in the Chicago Sun-Times, quote, armed federal agents in military fatigues busted down their doors overnight, pulling men, women, and children from their apartments, some of them naked, residents and witnesses said.
All right, so here's the thing. We don't have the video of the naked adults and allegedly naked children, right? We don't have that video, okay? I'm not saying I want to see that video. I don't want to see the video, but if that video actually existed, which, I mean, if this actually happened, I would have good reason to believe that people would have recorded it, because it would have been so shocking that people would have, I mean, that's the first thing that people do in 2025 when they see something like that. They pull out their phones and record. And we do have video footage of what happened. But again, I haven't seen that, which again tells me that likely that's not what happened, right? That's not what happened. So I have no reason to believe that this is anything outside of coordinated left-wing propaganda, right? Where, they come up with these outrageous stories and then they use it to try to sway public opinion, right? But if you don't have the actual imagery to back it up, again, I don't think the impact is going to be what they are trying to achieve.
Agents approached or entered nearly every apartment in the 5-story building, and U.S. citizens were among those detained for hours, end quote. Take a listen to this chilling local news report on what happened.
I spoke to one woman who actually lives in this building, and she says she was detained by ICE agents overnight, and she says they took everyone and then asked questions later.
They just treated us like we were nothing.
Patricia Fisher said she came out to the hallway of her apartment complex on the corner of 75th and South Shore Drive in her nightgown around 10 Monday night, only to find ICE agents yelling police.
It was scary because I've never had a gun put in my face. They asked my name and my date of birth and asked me did I have any warrants, and I told them no, I didn't.
She said she was then handcuffed and released around 3 a.m. Fisher says she was told if anyone had any kind of warrant out for them, even if it was unrelated to immigration, they would not be released. Citizen App video shows the chaotic scene overnight. Neighbors tell us there were dozens of ICE agents. Neighbors like Ebony Watson says they ducked for cover as they heard several flashbangs go off.
They was terrified. The kids was crying. People was screaming. They looked very distraught. I was out there crying when I seen the little girl come around the corner. Because they was bringing the kids out too. Had them zip tied to each other. That's all I kept asking. Where's the morality? Where's the human? One of them literally laughed. He was standing right here. He said, them kids.
Fuck the kids.
Yo, PS Nell is so dramatic, bro. Does anybody really believe that? Does anybody really believe that? Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Does anybody really... Bruh. Yo, they really think they fooling people, bro. They really think they fooling people. See, this is what you do when you're losing. When you've lost the public, this is how desperate you get. Just making up stuff. I mean, they don't even make it believable anymore. Zip-tied kids, right? That zip-tied naked children. And now ICE agent said, F them kids. Wow. Again, who wrote this? Right? The writer of this story should be fired. Right? Fire this guy.
Federal officials say 37 people were arrested in the raid, which they said they performed because the neighborhood was a, quote, location known to be frequented by Tren de Aragua members and their associates. But as the Chicago Sun-Times reports, DHS gave no evidence to support that assertion, and authorities did not confirm that any of the people arrested were members of a Venezuelan gang. An unbelievable show of force that looks to the naked, untrained eye very un-American, sweeping up women, children, and U.S. citizens. Daryl Ballard, who witnessed the raid, said this, quote, we're under siege, we're being invaded by our own military, end quote. And a woman named Marley Sanders, whose boyfriend was detained, noted, quote, they had the black people in one van and the immigrants in another van, end quote.
Again, where's the footage? Where's the proof? Where's the evidence? Again, so they had segregated. Again, the writer of this story, whoever wrote this story, should be fired. Come on. I mean, I can write better propaganda than this, right? Hey, like, really, they had segregated vans. Where are the pictures? Where are the videos of this? I want to see the videos of the segregated vans. So again, hold on. We got zip-tied naked children, right? We got F them kids, okay? And now we have segregated vans, right? Incredible. Absolutely incredible story.
A frightening escalation overnight. Raid is an escalation in what has been a weeks-long presence by ICE officials in the country's third largest city, where hundreds have been arrested. At the same time, protesters have been voicing their outrage. Clashes outside the ICE facility in Broadview, a suburb of Chicago, have turned ugly at times, with demonstrators getting tear gassed. Today, protesters were there again, and so was DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. She was spotted on the roof of the facility along with the Border Patrol commander, agents as well as cameras, to which Governor Pritzker responded, quote, "It's been nearly 45 days since Secretary Noem has held an official press conference, so it's time she faces the public and takes questions from the press to be held accountable for the Trump administration's gross misconduct."
Look, we're beyond that, okay? We're beyond answering questions. We don't need to answer any questions, okay? We're done with questions. This is action now, right? But I mean, this is what Democrats asked for, because we gave you warning after warning after warning. Let us in your jails. Get rid of your sanctuary city laws. Comply. We don't have to go through this. This doesn't have to happen. But because you don't want to comply, this is why this has to happen. So you can't blame anybody but yourself, right? Now, again, I don't know what happened with this raid, right? I don't know how much of these stories are actually true. I definitely don't think the F them kids line is true. I don't think that happened at all. Also, I find it fascinating how MSDNC, they will censor a Trump speech, but now they're cursing on air. And notice how MSNBC did not blur out the word, right? So they didn't censor the word. And they uploaded this to YouTube, right? So I know live on air, they didn't censor it. I would find it hilarious if FCC chair Brendan Carr had something to say about that, right? Had something to say about MSNBC letting the F word fly uncensored on their news channel, right? Who knows? Maybe it doesn't matter because MSNBC is not news, okay? So who cares, right? If they curse. At this point, again, the cursing is a sign of desperation, right? It's this fake, oh, we're not playing around anymore. This is so serious. Like, bro, like nobody, who's falling for this? Seriously, I mean, really, this story is obviously fake in the sense that the raid happened and they got gang members. They got mostly illegals because otherwise they wouldn't have done it if it was, oh, it's just all U.S. citizens in there, right? It's like, no, that's nonsense. Why would they waste resources going after the apartment building with no illegals if they're not sure? Why would they conduct an operation like that? So they definitely rounded up some illegals, and it doesn't matter if U.S. citizens were detained for a few hours. It doesn't matter. They weren't arrested. They weren't charged. They weren't deported. Yeah, they were detained because they got to detain everybody in the apartment in order to make sure nobody gets away, right? That the illegals don't escape. That's the reality situation. And yeah, I know it sucks to be sleeping at night in an apartment complex and to have ICE invaded and you have to wake up, but hey, it happens. When I was in college, when I was living in a dorm, okay, the fire alarm used to go off randomly, right? That happened like 3 times a semester. It sucked, right? Every single time it sucked. So yeah, I'm just saying, I've been there, right? I've been there. But in this situation, sub thesis here, once again, you have nobody to blame but Democrats. Blame Democrats because we warned you from the beginning. Let us in your jails or we have to go in your neighborhoods. We don't want to go in your neighborhood. We don't want to do these type of operations. But Democrats forced us to do these type of operations because they don't want to cooperate. So you can't blame anybody except the Democrats. Point the finger at the Democrats. That is your problem. Enforcing the law is not the problem, right? Law enforcement is not the problem. The problem is the Democrats who are obstructing, and because they're obstructing, we got to do it the hard way. So if you want things to change, then vote out the Democrats, right? And things will change. Get rid of your sanctuary city laws, demand it, okay? Put it on the ballot, get rid of it, and it'll stop. But, if you choose not to, then this is what you got to deal with. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.